Hello and welcome. I hope you're all doing very well. I'm Ashley Hendricks, and I just want to share something today with you that I think will really help build some engaged readers in your classroom. You see, this reading strategy is called shared reading, so let's get into it. Oh, wrong glasses. Sorry, guys. Let's get right on into it. So, what is shared reading? So, the teacher in shared reading is to read aloud to the students as they follow along with their own work. We're going to explain an example of that a little bit later in the presentation. Now, the teacher is to set an example for the students and encourage the creation of healthy relationships between the students and reading, leading by example. Now, some expected outcomes of shared reading are to demonstrate reading fluency. Like I just said, you're leading by example when you're reading aloud to the students and having them follow along. You're leading by example, demonstrating reading fluency. You're also teaching the students how to derive enjoyment and information from the reading, as well as developing and internalizing self-questioning in the students, teaching them how to do these things. Now, some major components of shared reading include its goal. You see, the goal of shared reading is to engage students, but also to develop their reading comprehension abilities. Now, you see, there's a study done in Indonesia, and if you want to see the references for that, it will be at the end of the presentation. But a study done in Indonesia where it implemented shared reading, and this was their conclusion. There's a significant influence on the use of shared reading strategies on the reading comprehension abilities of 10th grade students. Now, the reason why I pointed this out was because I want to show you guys that it's not just for the preliminary preschool students to sit around a carpet and enjoy a shared reading time. No, this is something that we can implement into our secondary level to engage students and to create independent critical thinkers. Now, another major component of shared reading is the teacher's role. You see, the teacher's role, as we stated before, is to read aloud to the students. And as I said, you are leading by example. So this includes demonstrating what it looks like to develop reading literacy, self-questioning, and to ask students questions as you guys go along in the reading to keep those students engaged. Now, the student's role in shared reading is to follow along with the teacher and where the teacher goes. You see, the students will engage with the text as the teacher leads them, and they will slowly but surely develop the habits that the teacher instills in them as they read. Again, you are leading by example, so whatever you do as you read, your students will start to pick up on. Now, as we discuss content areas and content reading and shared reading, I want to just identify. Did you see that? I kept you engaged. This is what I want you to do as you read to your students. I gave you a little something special there. But I want you, as you read to your students, to keep them engaged. Don't read with a slow, monotonous voice. Read with some personality, if that is the type of reading that you're doing. This example right here is an English teacher, very literary centered, as an English teacher might read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein to her class. This is how I want you guys to be able to read to your classes, to keep them engaged. You want to be thinking out loud. That's it. Thinking out loud. You lead by example. So as you're reading with interest and with intrigue, but also you're making observations and you're asking questions. That's right, you as the teacher, because you want to set an example for your students to do the same. And that's something that I want to say is one of the most important things in shared reading. You want to never discourage your students to disrupt the reading in order to make an observation or to ask a question. Now I say as long as it is related, but there are a lot more things related than you might believe. You see, if a student makes a remark about how the text relates to some real world happening, that is related. If the text relates to another text that you read previously in the year or something that you plan on reading, that is related. If they're referring to something that was said before in the text and or something that is alluded to later in the text if you're reading in a novel, that is related. So you want to make sure that you encourage your students to make these observations. Now, this is a demonstration of an English teacher going through shared reading with their students, but not every single content area reads the same, and it has implementation of shared reading the same. So I just want to talk about different content areas now. You see, there are, as I said, different content areas. And so here with math, math teacher, leading, it might look a little bit different, so I wanted to explain that to you. You see, a math teacher reading aloud through a textbook as it explains, say, solving complex equations with variables on both sides. You see, the teacher would be encouraged to stop a few every so often to ask if the students have any questions. And then in anticipation of the students maybe finding it difficult, the teacher might have pre-prepared questions. Now, I really want you to focus on that. Having pre-prepared questions in a content area such as math is so important and vital, I believe, because pre-prepared questions are encouraging the students to engage with the context that the teacher is reading in, even when they might not understand how to ask questions or they don't know where to start when making observations with the text. Now, the conclusion of this, I want you guys to realize that we are not just teachers to teach content, but rather we are developing students who will engage with the world in a well-rounded, well-thinking manner. The implementation of shared reading can provide a scaffolding for students to develop those skills that go beyond the classroom. See, our hope is to develop healthy habits and healthy relationships with reading and the students so that they may become independent critical thinkers, as I said before, and be able to influence the world for good as they go into more complicated content areas and eventually into a full autonomy as they go out of the education system and into the world. We want to develop critical thinkers. And we do this by teaching them how to summarize, synthesize, visualize, question, problem solve, determine importance of the text. As I said before, connecting the text to self, text to text, and text to world. You see, we encourage comparing and contrasting of the text and understanding cause and effect, teaching the students how to evaluate and to infer, teaching them to recognize temporal sequencing, seeing the chronological order of things. By these things, we're able to develop critical thinkers and some people in the next generation that will be excited to pick up a book because they understand what they're going to do with it. Now, if you wanted any references to anything I talked about today, it is here on this page, and I just wanted to encourage you guys that you can do it. It's going to be a great year of teaching, and I know that you guys will develop some strong readers. I hope you all have an amazing day.